Yeah, the dog show. Hey, you ready?
Okay.
The dog show with Nick and Joe. It's a beast. It's going down. It's off the chain. It's off the leash.
What?
I'm tuning in Friday every week. The dog show podcast. Yes, indeed. Hold up. Check out the podcast. Listen to it online. Giving you advice to help train your K9. Take your dog to the next level from the experts of obedience. The dog show, dog show. Guaranteed you're needing this.
Hey.
Off the leash, K9 Training,
What?
Facebook and IG, and the site is so amazing. Yeah, the dog show with Nick and Joe. Hold up, the dog show with Nick and Joe. Hey.
Alrighty, let's get into our show sponsor. We want to thank DemonABitesuits.com. That's Chris Pell out there in Loveland, Colorado. They are by far, and I believe all three of us at the table would agree with that, by far the best bite suits in the world. They have a lot of really cool stuff on their website. You can order custom suits to competition, semi-competition, training, semi-training. You can also order some clatter sticks, some tugs, and they got a lot of cool shirts in. Chris is, I believe, done with the Working Dog Conference out there in St. Louis right now. They were doing some pretty cool discounts out there. But if you missed that conference, you can use discount code DOGSHOW for 10% off your entire order. So we want to thank them for sponsoring today's show. And let's get into episode 22.
Power up request received. Initiating systems. Powering of transmitters. Live from OLK9 Studios in Virginia. They tell it like they see it. They educated the not so educated. And you'll laugh your ass off. Introducing The Dog Show with Nick and Joe. A podcast with knowledgeable info, rants, and absolute randomness. You're listening to the sounds of uncensored honesty from two of the most respected dog trainers in the industry. Live on Facebook every Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. New episodes available for download every Saturday. The Dog Show with Nick and Joe. Download on iTunes, Google Play, and iHeartRadio.
Alrighty, welcome to the Dog Show, everyone. We are here for episode 22. Got my partner in crime, Mr. Nick White, sitting across from me. How are you, sir?
What's up, guys?
And we have a very special guest in the studio, Mr. Aaron Taylor with Ridgeside K9. How are you?
Thanks for having me. Good morning. We're doing fantastic.
Good, man. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I'm Aaron Taylor. I own Ridgeside K9 in western Loudoun County, Virginia. We specialize in everything from working dogs to house pets and hunting dogs and all kinds of weird stuff in the middle there.
You do it all, huh?
A little bit of everything.
Awesome, and you got from what I hear, an amazing compound up there on top of the mountain.
It started like that, and it's kind of taken on a life of its own for the most part, but it's pretty cool.
Good to hear, man. Good to hear. Glad to have you on today. Nick, what's going on with you, buddy?
Living the dream.
Yeah. Anything?
What about you?
Busy, stressed.
Usual?
Yeah, usual. Anything new coming up for you?
Yeah, I have. I'm pretty excited. Next week, planning on going to my friend Carl's house down in Florida.
Oh. Hashtag no invite, huh?
Yeah.
Cool, man.
To wrestle some tigers, grip up, do a little wrestling with some bears, some mountain lions, some tigers. The usual dog trainer stuff. So I'm going there for 3 days next week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, to wrangle some tigers and lions and
kiss some wolves.
Big cats. Yeah,
French kiss some wolves.
Probably mingle with some
I think
wolves again.
We've told that story before, right? When you got tongued down by the wolf in Florida.
Not on the show, I don't think.
No?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, we'll have to get there one day.
Yeah, because that was definitely I felt violated for sure during the wolf encounter.
Are you really violated if you're smiling throughout the entire process, though? Because you totally were.
And I did ask to go back in. So.
What kind of wolves are these?
A mix. It's a guy down in Florida I know. What is do you remember the name of it?
Yeah, it's No, I don't.
So it's a huge wolf sanctuary. I believe he has about 50 wolves on site. Not like wolf dogs, but like legit wolves. And it's not open to the it's not open to the public at all. I was gonna say like to go in, but to even go, it's not open to the public. But he did let myself, Joe, and one of our other trainers, Daniel Carter, go because we're dog trainers. He was familiar with Off Leash.
Let's tell a story.
Was
man.
A big fan.
I'm gonna tell it. All right,
go ahead.
You got to hear this,
The
Aaron.
food bill for that place has got to be amazing.
Oh my
it's
god,
absurd.
dude, it's insane. And how many did he have on the property?
Like
I mean,
50 something.
It was a ton.
They're in different. I mean, they're living really well though. Like, you know, each like maybe a 4-pack of wolves will have like 5 acres enclosure to themselves. So it's not like they're in like a small kennel or anything.
Yeah,
he takes really good care of them.
They definitely take care of them.
They have
for
like their
sure.
own shelters built, and he has like tunnel systems in the enclosure so the wolves can like go den in and like pools, all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's not open to the public. And but he's an amazing guy and does an amazing job with these wolves. But he was familiar with me and the business and was a fan, so he let us have access. And then he let us take it a step further and actually get in with the wolves themselves.
Cool. And this is where I take over the story.
So yeah, he lets us show up, and he's like, if you guys want, you can get in with the wolves. He's like, just keep in mind, like these are not dogs like you're used to. Like if they jump up on you, like do not shove them off. You know, he's like, you know, don't make direct eye contact with them. Like, don't shove them off. Like, because every enclosure has the pack leader as well. Like, the legit, an actual pack leader, you know, not like the dog version. So he's like, all right, this big gray one here, like, he's the leader of this pack. So if he comes up to you, just kind of look down, look away. If he he may jump up on you because he makes you get down on your knees. So you're in like a submissive position. So you're not like the stranger coming in, like towering over the alpha male, essentially. So you get down on your knees.
In white shirts.
Yeah, and you got to be in white shirts because he says they're weird about contrast. Like if they see like that logo on your shirt, they'll be like, ooh, what's that standing out? And and they'll, test it, essentially. So I'll let Jay-Z take over the story in a second.
So here we are.
So we're in white shirts. And he's like, enter the enclosure. Everyone get down on your knees. Don't make eye contact. Don't push them off. Like, just be a bitch, essentially, is what he's telling you.
This is a new routine for Ridgeside, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes on this. I like it.
So he's like, get down on your knees, put on these shirts. Do not make eye contact with any of the wolves. If they approach, try to stay relaxed, try to stay calm, because, that you don't want to give them that, like, fearful prey energy. And just whatever happens, don't shove him off because that'll really piss him off. He'll, like, take it as, like, a threat, essentially, like, who the fuck are you to push me, So we get in the enclosure, go.
All right, so we get in the enclosure, and the guy kind of freaked us out. And I don't know if he did on purpose, but he's like...
I don't think so.
He freaked me out when he says...
I'm saying I don't think he did it on purpose.
Oh, no. But when, he says, as Nick said, go down straight on your knees, make no eye contact, don't say anything... And the alpha is going to come up and check you out, approve you for the rest of the pack to come out.
Yeah, and that was weird how it worked, too.
It worked out exactly like that.
When you enter enclosure, the alpha will always come up first.
And check
the
everyone
rest
out.
Stay back. And kind of once he is like, she checks everyone out. Yeah, because sometimes.
Most of the time.
Yeah, in some of the instances, it was a female. So all of them kind of stay back all skittish, and the female comes up, and I'll save that for Jay-Z.
Yeah.
But she comes up and kind of checks you out, and then after that process is over, it's kind of like they give like, okay, they're fine, and then the rest slowly start coming up and mingling.
Yeah. So we
big oak wolf sanctuary.
Yeah, that's right. Big I knew it was oak something.
Big Oak Wolf Sanctuary in Green Cove Springs, Florida.
And they can always use donations. It is definitely a
it's an
non-profit.
operation. Yeah, and they don't allow public, so they have no revenue source. Correct. Yeah, other than donations.
Yeah. So we get in there in the first enclosure. All three of us kind of line up. We immediately drop to our knees with our white T-shirts on, and here comes the alpha. It was a female. And she comes up to him first. She knew him, right? And, he's loving on her and all that stuff. And then she proceeds to, come down the line for us. And the one thing that he told us was whatever she wants to do, you let her do it. Yeah. You don't want to make it look like a challenge, essentially, which makes total sense. So she comes down the line and she goes over to Nick.
And these are like 120 pound, 140 pound.
Oh, they're
wolves.
fucking
they're huge.
monsters,
Yeah,
man. They're
huge.
monsters. I mean, exactly what you would expect a full wolf to look like, right? So she comes up to Nick, and she's smelling him and all that stuff. And then next thing you know it, man, keep in mind he's on his knees. She like jumps up and puts her paws on his shoulders.
Like a touch command.
Like a touch command, right?
Sure.
And starts like licking him on the face. And the dude, the owner of the facility, he's like, you have to, like, she wants to taste the inside of your mouth to see what you've eaten.
Yeah.
For
No
approval.
shit.
For approval. So she's like, so he's like, you have to open your mouth. So
This is where it gets X-rated, kids. If you're watching, turn off.
and Daniel are like, yeah, Nick, you got to open up your mouth, like you don't want to get eaten by this wolf.
And keep in mind, you have like this huge wolf. I'm on my knees, and it's literally like resting its paws on its own. It comes up and like touches, and its face is like this microphone, like literally like this. And you're not allowed to make eye contact. You can't push him away. So I'm just like this.
So then Nick opens his mouth and begins to get a wolf's tongue.
Joe's like, how do I say this?
Down, yeah, I'm trying to keep this as PG as possible. A wolf's tongue down his throat. I mean, she's going to town, bro.
You know that you guys know that hangy ball, like in the back of your throat. I don't know the medical term. Like that shit's getting flicked rapidly by this wolf's tongue.
Yeah,
like,
so
literally.
So me and Daniel.
Oh, they're dying.
We're dying laughing, right?
I'll post the pictures.
We're trying to keep it straight, but we just can't help it. So we're dying laughing. And then, of course, she goes down the line and tongue jacks the rest of us. So it was.
And that wasn't included in the pre-brief on this.
No.
This is gonna happen.
No, it definitely wasn't.
And like literally, like not even add in like any dramatics to make the story better because it doesn't need it. But like no shit, we were legitimately, I swear to everyone, we were legitimately like spitting like sand and dirt like out of our mouths for like 3 or 4 hours from the wolf, like just and we're like, trying to get it all out of our mouths.
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience. But after that, we would go into the next enclosure. I mean, because there were so many enclosures with different packs.
And his thing was, and I don't know if he was just like screwing with us, but he was like, well, and we're like, okay, this was a cool experience. We got some pictures, got some
Let's
videos.
roll.
We're good. And he's like, well, no, you got to go into all the enclosures because then
they'll get jealous.
The wolves in the other enclosures will see that we gave these wolves attention, and then they're gonna start howling and like creating a scene. So we got to go down. So we pretty much like just got molested by wolves.
Yeah.
For like an hour.
Good times.
Straight.
Good times. But what was, I think, the most memorable part of that experience was at one point we're in like the 5th or 6th enclosure with the pack, and one of the wolves started to howl.
Oh, that was crazy.
And then every single wolf on the compound joined in.
Nice.
And it was just like a symphony.
Yeah,
I mean, it was the most
impressive,
beautiful thing you could ever hear. If you're a dog person, I mean, that is like
hearing just like 50 different like wolves just
howling.
Harmoniously howling.
It was an incredible
that
experience.
almost made it worth being molested by wolves.
Yeah, well,
did you guys learn a lot about dog behavior or behavior?
Oh
in general?
yeah, oh yeah.
Well, and the differences and
sure.
Yeah, and that was where I learned that the alphas, I mean, this may be sexist, but I didn't realize that alphas could be females.
Yeah, I didn't.
You know, in a pack. So,
but I mean, we see it with dogs sometimes.
Yeah,
too.
For sure. So we learned that, and then it was really cool. Every enclosure that you went into, the alpha comes up, checks you out first,
every time,
gives the approval, and,
somehow,
and we don't even know how she gave the approval. They would just end up coming out of nowhere, and then they would all just kind of swarm us. And they
were kind of dog-like,
yeah,
very dog-like.
These are very wild, wolves, and they, they love to be petted on and loved on.
Because keep in mind, they have no human interaction outside the owner, because no one's allowed to come. It's not open to the public. So, but yeah, once the alpha came, like in every enclosure and kind of checked you out, it was like an unspoken word. Like it would like do the tongue jacking kind of down the line. And the crazy thing is, like, that wasn't just like one alpha. Like, that was the routine.
Yeah.
Of like, we go into a completely different enclosure, get down. It's like, like tongue jack your shit.
I can taste it right now.
And then once it would do like me and then Joe and then Daniel, and then it would like kind of get down and kind of stay in the area. But then right after that, all the other wolves would come up, and then they would just start. I mean, they're like jumping up, like just literally like German shepherds, like running around, excited to be played with.
Yeah.
So it was weird how they had like the alpha would do his thing, and then he gave some or she gave some sign, and then they'd be like, all right, they're cool, and then everyone else would come up to you after that.
And one of the key things I remember is we always had to be laughing. Like, that was
facial expression.
Yeah, he was big on that.
He wanted us always laughing, show that we're happy. You know, he didn't want any like neutral faces.
It's funny the stuff you guys bring up, and I'm sure you discuss it with your clients all the time, but I find me telling a lot of clients, zip it. Stop talking so damn much. Like, you're giving so many commands, so much. You're so tense. Stop talking.
Relax.
Communicate non-verbally, and then put a smile on your face.
Yep.
And you'll see the dogs change instantaneously
Yeah.
from being nervous or a little bit maybe even timid or skittish of their owner based on all this rapid fire. You know, I always tell people, you don't speak dog, they don't speak English, it'll never work.
Right,
so
right.
zip it.
Yeah.
And it's just nice to hear with the wolf side of things.
Yeah, man,
it's all aligned.
Definitely an experience.
I'll post the pictures on our Facebook page that you guys are watching this on at the end of the show, so you can see. I have some of the pictures of like the tongue jacking, and you'll see like them as it's happening to me, like literally hunkered over, like dying, laughing. But it was a really cool experience. It was really awesome.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I mean, I want to probably this week when I go down again. Yeah.
No pictures this time, though, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I probably will, just because, it's a very surreal experience to be in there with, like, a legit, like, no shit pack of wolves.
Yeah.
You know?
Sure.
But it's when they first approach, it's kind of suspect. Like, some of them, like, when you go in, they'll kind of growl a little.
Yep.
Like, I mean, they're literally like this. You're on your knees and like this, and, like, their teeth will be, like, right here, and they're like, grrr, and you're like, oh, please don't rip out my fucking throat. Please don't rip out my throat. And you're like...
You're like
all smiling.
We had a wolf dog at the kennel a couple months back, and it actually had its foundation laid by Off Leash. I forget the girl's name that did it. She did a really, really good job on e-collar implementation. And damn, what is her name?
Was it food aggressive by chance or no? Because I remember us having a food aggressive.
Oh, when it was younger.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, I think Michelle was our trainer.
That
she had
who
a very food aggressive
Yes.
wolf, correct?
So phenomenal off leash, great trained dog, but it's turned into like a legit dog on dog, highly aggressive case. So we brought him into the kennel just to do straight immersion where we can put him around a bunch of working dogs, just a lot of, between back ties and different things we can do on pulley systems to kind of force the escape and the avoidance on his part from the other dogs.
Right.
And all the behaviors you just mentioned are right there. Like, you come to the kennel and some bitch jumps straight up, but like his eyes, and I'm 6'4", and this dog's eyes are like at my eyes. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Now, luckily, he wasn't a human aggressive dog, or would have had to be a whole different protocol.
Correct.
But he was an interesting one. But for that specific case, because we get a lot of specialty cases outside the norm of obedience, although I'm sure like obedience is what we pay the bread and butter on. Thank God. Thank God for house pets.
Yeah.
But that one was just amazing because I posted a picture, and I believe Mountain, I don't know his name.
Yeah.
Mountain hit me up right away. I said, I think we trained that dog, because I said this dog was trained off leash by Off Leash. Does anybody know who trained it? Because his obedience was crisp. And he commented back. She commented right away. I was able to immediately message her offline on the side.
Get some more info.
100%. And then it helped all the training for the dog-on-dog, really psychotic level aggression to jump in front of that, nip it, and go forward. But all the behavior you're talking about, though, he wants to jump up, lick your face.
Yeah.
Just pretty cool stuff. Now, that dog was from Slovakia, I believe, where he was imported from. And he's a true wolf dog breed. And I don't know all the particulars on that. I mean, it's a lot more complicated than a shepherd.
It goes by
wolf.
it goes by percentages of some sort, but
he looks like a wolf.
I
can tell you that. Like,
yeah,
he looks like a damn wolf. And I think he was 137 pounds.
Yeah, they're massive, man.
And since we're speaking of it, and we have people watching, don't buy wolf dogs.
No, please, hell no.
Don't
Very,
buy
very
definitely
dangerous
don't buy
dogs.
wolves, and definitely don't buy wolf dogs unless my one disclaimer is kind of like the Malinois, except worse. Unless you're very, 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 very highly experienced in dealing with that. Do
and
not
or
get them.
willing to hire some very real trainers. And these people, lucky they actually live in D.C. They started with Off Leash. They went to another behaviorist, which I'm not even going to touch on behaviorists and how
Yeah.
much of a waste of money
Correct.
that is.
Agree.
But they spent a lot of money there. So
Yeah.
they paid money for the foundation. They spent a lot of money on a behaviorist. They came to us for some dog-on-dog specific stuff. And I recommend them actually coming back. You said Michelle, I think it is.
Yeah, it was Michelle.
I recommended them going back to Michelle at 2.5 for like a 2-week touch-up.
Refresher.
Because you can
Yeah.
never get enough
Correct.
repetitions.
Yeah, for sure.
And these people aren't worried about dropping that money left and right.
Yeah.
But
And
they
that's
are
what I
like
always
a
say.
1% owner.
Yeah, and that's
You know
what I
mean?
say when it comes to like wolf dogs, Malinois, stuff like that, is if you're not highly experienced, you should be highly wealthy.
Yes.
So that way you can consistently afford to pay someone like ourselves or Aaron who is highly experienced.
And it can get expensive quickly.
Well, and the thing is, most of the dogs at Big Oak were rescues from people who
yeah.
bought
Sure.
fucking wolves. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And what
That's
I-
an important point to point out. Is I think it was like 80% of his wolves or wolf dogs. I think most of them were actual wolves or wolf hybrids. I think he only did high content, which was like 90%
Yeah, it was-
plus
it-
wolves for
yeah.
him to take them in. I think it was like 80-90% of them were taken from owners who's like, oh, I'm gonna get a wolf. It's gonna be awesome. I'll take pictures. I'll blow up the gram, and and then they realized in like 6 months that they got a wolf, and then they're like, holy shit, he's jumping my 6-7 foot fences. He's
all
tearing
day.
up my house.
All
He's
day.
starting to get food aggressive, territorial, and then they reached out to him, and
what
now
I
he's taking them
what
in.
I really liked about John, which is the owner of that compound down there, is that these wolves at one point were somebody's pet, so they were running around the house and all that. He wanted to bring them back to the most primal state as possible. So like he literally hand built like little platforms, caves essentially for them to go into and get shelter, and he tried to mimic their
a real environment.
their closest to real environment as possible, and just let them be wolves. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Let
Yeah.
let fucking wolves be wolves, and that was really cool to see. I actually implement a lot of that into my training,
Awesome.
kind of tapping into the dog's primal instincts and communicating with them in that sense. So anyhow, it was definitely an experience, to say the least. So Aaron, what you do it all, man. You do pets. I've seen you do a lot of protection stuff. You work with police departments. You said you do gun dogs. What's your go-to? What's your favorite? What's your absolute?
So my part-time job is I am a canine handler.
Okay.
So I don't want to say what agency I work for, so please don't say that. But I do work for a big agency in the D.C. metro area. So I work a patrol dog on midnights. I say my part-time job now because the business has far surpassed where that could ever possibly go. But I find myself glued to that because that's like the release, that's the rush, that's my escape from the business, is to jump into a car and go actually work a dog for real. Basically for pennies, like most police officers do, but it still keeps your edge there, keeps your sharpness there. It really brings everything full circle. As far as favorite thing, let me back it up for just a minute, kind of how I got into the pet world. I was one of those ignorant canine police officers that truly thought canine cops know it all.
Yeah.
And I would have told you that 5 years ago. Oh, you train pets? Get out, wasting my time. Let's not even have a communication or a conversation about dog training because you just don't get it. And you don't have real dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My mom growing up was a really good dog trainer. Now, she was back in the day with a clicker, and everybody forgets that when clicker first came out, clicker was a clicker and a 24-inch bamboo stick. And you were to click and smack the dog with the stick, right? That was clicker back in the day. Now,
They
somewhere
phased out the stick.
very, very quickly, right? In the mid-'90s, it went from compulsion and classical and operant conditioning, so we had all positive with compulsion
Balanced.
to just all positive. And we know that just all positive dog training does not work
Correct.
in real life. So I was watching my mom do this stuff growing up. I kind of had an understanding of how to do marker training for the most part. She was really big into DARE back in the day, Doberman Rescue. So Dobermans in and out of the house all the time, most with behavioral issues. And grew up, joined the Marine Corps, did 6 years in the Corps, got out in 2004, and have been a cop ever since, basically on a midnight shift or a tactical unit the entire time. Training dogs on the side in my garage or in the basement, wherever I was living at that time, basically for free. Somebody would come over, hey, my dog won't sit, or my dog won't do this. Oh, let's do this. And I wasn't in charge. I didn't have a business. It was like fun stuff on the side. Ignorantly, I had no idea how much dog trainers are making. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't realize it if you're not in that community.
Correct.
Just how profitable training dogs can be if you're good.
Yeah.
If you can retain clients and if you can attract new business, and you're not just like a smoke and mirrors, cuckoo out there like a lot of people tend to be on Facebook at this point. When we went live with Ridgeside, it was never intended to be for the pet dog audience. We have a contract. We do sell a lot of explosive dogs through the government, so we have a contract where we're doing that. And we'd have a good month, and you'd get a couple flips here and there where you'd find a really good dog, and you were able to pay a decent price and then sell it back and make some money on top. And those months were like hitting the lottery for us at that time.
Sure.
And for a cop, and my wife's also a cop,
Nice.
that's like, whoa, man, we just made X amount of dollars, more money on 3 sales than we made as a family in 2 months. At the same time, we were importing dogs, and we still do this a lot, importing a lot of dogs out of Holland, KMPV, Malinois, and Dutchies, which are the same thing, and we can talk about that later, but we don't want to offend a lot of people. But we were bringing over Dutch dogs for sale. Now, those were money up front. Somebody would order a dog, and they'd say, hey, I want a PH1, or I just want a KMPV line, or a puppy, or this age, this color, this breed, this female, whatever. And we'd call over, place an order. Dog shows up at Dulles. You pick the dog up.
Sure.
Hand it off to a customer. Sometimes it's a parking lot flip, like the customer
Wow.
is waiting like in the parking lot at Dulles. So
Wow.
you got to understand the average person. You guys know this. They don't understand the mechanics or have a mechanism. People always say, oh, I can buy a dog from Holland. It's not quite that simple.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to import the dog, how to clear customs, where the dog's going to fly to, how to even get the dog on an airplane from one country and bring it to the
And
next.
a lot of it is knowing the right person. 'Cause
Trust.
there's a lot of screwery that
Trust,
goes on
trust, and
over
trust.
there. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you can use, I don't like the word broker because we're not a broker, but if you can use a company to where it's kind of my money up front,
The risk is on you.
the risk is on
Yeah.
me every time. And we've been burned. You know what I mean? And you can lose thousands and thousands of dollars at a time if you get burned. But that was always the purpose of Ridgeside, was to have a business under an LLC that would protect us a little bit, allow us to get business insurance, allow us to have those protections, sell the explosive dogs, import dogs for personal sale. And then somewhere through the evolution of Facebook, I never had a Facebook account until I had a business. And then we started the business page, and all of a sudden I start seeing all this stuff pop up. Now, I had 3 buddies that owned different sit locations. At that time, I heard of Off Leash. I didn't really know what it was about. I was the ignorant mindset of they're training poodles and these fake dogs.
Sure.
And I'll touch how ignorant that mindset is in just a minute, and how much it costs a lot of people
Yeah.
tremendous amount of revenue because of that mindset. But I went to a Bart Ballone seminar, and I actually wound up sitting right next to Danny Walker. I didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. We wound up talking, chit-chatting. He said I work for Off Leash. I said, oh, that's cool. I've heard about them online. I was impressed with him. I thought he was a nice guy. He definitely had a lot of dog knowledge. And at this seminar, it was the last Bart Ballone seminar he was ever doing in the States outside of the silver and gold schools,
Right.
which are their money makers
Sure.
beyond.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to comprehend the price tag on that for what you're getting in return. I don't know. I'm not
Yeah.
going to touch on that because I respect the hell out of him and
Yeah.
his wife. But
They're paying it, so.
a lot of people are paying it. I was like a nobody at that seminar. I'm still a nobody now, but they were some of the best dog trainers in the country because this was the last big hoorah. So
Sure.
people were flying in from California, Canada, Mexico, all over the world and all over the country to come to this thing in Fairfax. Just so happened I have a dog. Bart knows the breeder. He knows the KMPV club.
Mhm.
So through like a 1-second conversation, he said, oh, you have a Jari line dog here in the States? I said, yeah. When he said, holy shit, can I see the dog? I said, sure, no problem. And he asked me real quick, he said, your dog clear? Is it stable? And, Bart has a really heavy accent. It's kind of hard to understand.
Yeah.
He said, is he clear? Is he stable? I said, yeah, it's no problem. He said, you want to come out here and just have some fun? Now, at these quick seminars, it's like it can be a little overwhelming. There was 100 people there, and it's like you jump in and you're in
Yeah.
front of these people and like they're doing crazy stuff, and man, your dog is either going to shine or it's going to shut down.
Yeah, sure.
And there was a lot of people there that were bringing dogs out, and the dogs were shutting down. I mean, they're coming out, and they're just like, holy shit, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Bart's throwing crazy drills at them. The dogs are failing left and right.
Right.
And he's not trying to fail the dog, but it's an owner that got way overconfident
Yeah.
in the capacity of their dog, the threshold of stimulation they could handle. They come out there and they look jump.
Yeah.
So we bring a dog out, and I'm not patting my own shoulder, but the dog smoked it. I mean, everything it could do, and then some. To the point that a couple months later, Bart was in Arizona, or Australia, not Arizona, Australia with Black Flag Kennels, who we do some business with on the side through Holland. They have a couple locations, and the owner in Australia hit me up and said, "Hey man, Bart's here. Had nothing but good things to say about you and your dog." I was like, "Holy shit, that's a pretty big compliment."
Yeah, sure.
But from that one seminar, and the small community of like working dogs, I mean, my inbox was like, because everybody wanted to know, hey, how did you get that dog in the States? Can you get more? Who's your connection? And then I really learned, like, I got to really be careful with my connections, because you can't put it all out there, because then it gets exploited and it gets corrupted once money starts flowing at too much of a level.
Yeah.
Through that seminar, though, when I started seeing all these people in the parking lot, it was like a car show at the time. I mean, you go out to the park, these are dog trainers. There's $100,000 cars left and right, left and right. Custom sprinters, custom vehicles, all this stuff. And as they should, if you work hard, you should play hard. You should never have to hide that you're successful, as long as your success was honest and earned by grinding.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I mean? I said, man, how are these people affording, like, this is a damn car show out here. What am I missing? Because at the time, we weren't poor, but we weren't eating like steaks every night either. You know what I mean?
Didn't have like tricked out $50,000 Jeeps and stuff like that.
Yeah, that Jeep outside is nice. Whose Jeep is that?
Sean's
It's Joe's.
way overpaid.
My buddy, who's also a Marine, owns part of the Leesburg dealership, so they trick out Jeeps around the clock.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like walking up and seeing a Wrangler. You're like, that looks nice. You're like, that's a $95,000 price tag
Yeah,
on
exactly.
a tricked out Wrangler. Holy shit.
Yeah.
When did that happen? But we basically revamped at that point and said, let's stop doing all this free training for pets. Let's try to gauge the market, see where we're at. At that time, I had some buddies, I still do, that own 2 different sit, mean sit locations. Talked with them, and I said, wait a minute, how much are y'all making a year? Like, holy crap, like that's a lot of revenue. Let's figure out how we can capitalize on some of that. So we started bringing in some pets, and then I don't have to tell you guys, once you start, as long as you can be real, genuine, have success, have long-term success, get good reviews, not blow smoke and mirrors, it's like the customers just come.
Yeah.
And you just start booking out.
And I agree with that. The problem that happens, I feel like today's world in dog training, is there's so many randoms that pop up out of nowhere
Smoke and mirrors.
that think the exact same thing that you just thought. But there's no passion behind it. There's no actual talent or skill, or more importantly, work ethic behind it. You know
Some
what I mean?
of them have a small skill set, but they don't have the hustle.
Yeah.
Meaning 2 weeks time, which is the standard industry, 2 weeks turnaround, right? That's not that much time if you have a problem dog. Some dogs, you get the really easy dogs, and we all love them. You know, like the happy-go-lucky Labrador that just wants to please no matter what. And these dogs, you're like, oh, this is great. And then sometimes you get a dog that is a legitimate dangerous dog, or legit dog aggression, and or you can throw every problem-solving technique you want at it, and you're still scratching your head like, I can't get through to this dog. Those are the dogs that make you hustle.
Those are the dogs that turn you into a fucking dog trainer.
Yes, and those are the dogs that'll push 20-hour days,
Yep.
rep after rep after rep, cycle after cycle. And if you're not willing to do it, then
Correct.
don't come into the game.
Agreed.
And, you know, people don't realize, as you said, like a lot of the risk that's involved too. Is,
Tremendous.
You know, as we always kind of joke with our new trainers, we say there's 2 types of dog trainers in the world: those who have been bit and those
that
who will be bit. Yeah.
Tremendous.
So people when they think dog trainer, they assume that you're getting all 6-month-old golden retrievers that just loves people and loves dogs, when actually a lot of the time you're not, because the dogs that aren't that much of a problem, a lot of the times the owners don't think they're that much of a problem either.
Correct.
So the people that are reaching out a lot of the times are the people whose dog has bit someone, or the dog that's attacked another dog, or the dog that's tearing up their house.
Correct.
And So it's kind of the opposite of what a lot of dog trainers think. They're like, sweet, I'm going to get to play with puppies all day. I'm like, well, you do, but you also get to play with all of these as well.
Yeah.
As somebody that breeds dogs a time or two and has a lot of puppies are not fun.
No, no.
And all we have is, Malleys and Dutchies, and like they're destructive. They bite every goddamn thing there is. They're dangerous half the damn time. They fight if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Like it's just.
I was going to ask if I
piss
come
and
visit
shit
your
everywhere.
facility, but let me know when those puppies are about a year old.
No,
and,
We got them there right now.
One of my good friends and now trainer in Off Leash now is Stephanie O'Brien out in Santa Barbara, California. She breeds a lot of like high drive, good working dogs. Like a lot of them are French Rank 3. A lot of them are on police departments. And when I go to California a lot, and whenever I go out there, I like to go to her place. And I always tell her and joke with her, and I say, I love having you because you always have, like, not always, but, a few times throughout the year, we'll have a bunch of Malinois pups running around.
Right.
And I'm like, I love showing up, getting down, wrestling, playing with them,
taking
taking some pictures, and then leaving.
Getting your quick puppy fix.
That's right.
And
I'm
rolling.
like, thanks, later.
Yep.
So
Yeah, puppies are this big. There's
it's like
so
babies.
many.
They're fun to have and give back.
In my opinion, there's no money in puppies. There's no real money in
No,
puppies.
no.
It's so much time involved in it to make it do right. And then if you have one hiccup, heaven forbid you have a C-section, the mom dies, you have some kind of infection come within a puppy litter, which can happen often. And now you're talking about real money to fix a problem that just eroded all the profitability of it. It's not about profit, but if you can't keep the lights on, you can't maintain good puppies. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So you have to pay for the investment. Puppies to me have to be a passion. There's some people that love it. They love having puppies. They love building puppies, exposing puppies, showing puppies. I don't, because it's like I love having a good puppy. I have an awesome Dutch Shepherd right now, a little pup who I actually sold. The guy already gave me the money. He was 2 days late to pick it up, and in those 2 days, my wife bonded with this puppy, and he really was a world-class puppy. And she's like, hey, the dog's not for sale anymore. I said, no, you don't understand. The guy already gave us money. Like, we have money in hand.
Yeah.
She goes, give him money back. I'm like, that's not how the business works.
So after you gave him the money back,
Exactly.
I pointed him. He got the dog from when we didn't sell it to him at that time. Tank with Off Leash was sitting on a litter of Malinois / Dutchies.
Joey Morris.
Joey Morris's
Yep.
litter. I'm having a brain fart here. So when I pulled the money back and kept the puppy, I immediately called Tank and said, do you have some good dogs down there? He said, yeah, we do have, I think, 2 really high drive pups left. So he went down, and him and Tank did that deal. I'm not sure how that went, but I know he bought a puppy from him.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it worked
Nice.
out good. But that was his fault. Like, if you say you're coming on Friday, you can't show up on Monday.
Yeah.
And you lose a dog.
Yeah, and that's, we can touch on that. I think that's a good topic because a lot of people out there, a lot of people assume like, breeders are horrible people and they're just doing it for profit and for their own good. And to clarify, that is the case for a lot of breeders as well, but not good breeders. Like Stephanie will tell you, like, it's not, like you said, Stephanie will agree, it's not worth the money. It's like, I got to deal with 8 crazy velociraptor Malinois in my house, tearing shit up, shitting, pissing,
Everywhere.
barking, whining. They need fed. This one's sick. I got to pay for food for those 8 weeks. I got to pay for vets for 8 weeks. I mean,
the barking and the whining can be almost like unnerving. It can almost send you into like a mental breakdown.
Insane asylum.
It's crazy. It's crazy. People have no clue on that.
Yeah, and so people think like, oh, they're just doing it for money. And she's like, a lot of the time she loses money. Once you pay for food for 8 weeks and vets and shots and boosters, and then she's got to take time, as you know, all good breeders. I've seen it when I've been out to her ranch. She's literally taking them and putting them in ball pits and running them on the ATVs and getting them around horses and doing foundational clicker training. Like when I was out there, I shot a video. She has these 8-week-old Malinois and she's free shaping, like getting on the treadmill.
It's awesome.
And so it's like once you factor in all of that and I sell that puppy for $2,500. Once I factor in my time over those 8 weeks and the food and vet, I probably made a profit of negative $3,000.
Yes.
Literally.
So this is the problem, and you touch on it. What is your time worth? And
Correct.
if your time is spent with puppies, you're not dealing with client dogs.
Yeah.
If you're not dealing with client dogs, you're not paying the bills.
Yeah.
And for those puppies, it's so much imprintation to get them right, to really expose them to the
especially
universe.
like a Malinois.
It's critical. So you say 2,500, which I think is a pretty conservative number. For a properly bred dog, especially if it's coming off a Dutch line, they can skyrocket from that pretty quickly. But even on the skyrocket, it's very difficult to make a profit. Where you make a profit as a company is you retain that client long term,
and then they come back to you for training,
for boarding,
yeah.
Sure.
for things like this. But I tell everybody, even in selling dogs or in flipping dogs for the government, if you can do it right, you can make money. That's 100%.
Ask Von Lick.
Yeah. 10 years ago, I think he was making a killing. Right now,
Yeah.
I think their company is like a lot of these big
Yeah.
kennels. And we can even touch on that some.
Well, it's because
the
Iraq,
mega kennels,
Afghanistan, and like
Yeah.
that was the boom,
Big
the
time.
housing boom for
Yeah.
the world of dog training, essentially.
Big time. I think a lot of those bigger kennels, the mega kennels as I call them, and I'm not going to say their names, there's a ton of them out there. If you visit them, like I visited them for different official things, you'll see like they're declining rapidly from where they were. A lot of the smaller kennels that are pushing quality dogs are dominating right now as far as the police military sales, to the point that even the military on very special, very small contracts are going through very tiny kennels because those are the guys that will go to not the mega centers over in Holland or over in Hungary or Czech Republic or wherever, but they're going to like the backwood farms of those countries. They're going to the tiny fields and they're hand selecting dogs that would never even be available through the vendors. And you got to remember, like, I mean, you guys know this, but there's some really good vendors and there are some criminals. I mean, flat out.
Literally.
Well, see, and I feel
criminals.
like that's one of the biggest problems now is there are so many vendors now.
You're correct.
Because I agree with you. There's a lot of really, really good small ones, at least that I know of, where I know the owners of the company personally, and they're just really good people, and I know they're passionate about it and all that stuff. But I feel like there are way more, like, let's make a quick profit kennels out there.
Sure.
And they're just underbidding on contracts, and that's why everyone here sees it on the daily basis of dogs, you know, Facebook videos of dogs in real life failing on the streets.
Oh yeah,
That's a whole nother quick topic to touch
sure.
on that aspect. You're right. In those businesses, and I'll use an example as with Off Leash K9. Sometimes we get clients, as I'm sure you guys do, that'll come in and say, "Oh, I went to this company first. I went to that company first." And this, you say, "Hold on, time out." And I'm very honest with people, and I even have a lot of Facebook videos where I tell people, I don't care if you come to Ridgeside, Off Leash, Sit Means Sit. I don't care where you go. Go to a professional.
Yes, I actually wrote a blog last year that said, "Who the fuck is that guy?" And and seriously, and the point,
I remember that.
The point behind it was, on the daily basis as trainers, we see all these new trainers popping up. And that was my argument in the blog. It's like, look, whether you come to Off Leash or not, do your fucking research.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Do your research. Make sure you get testimonials, reviews, you know.
Ask around.
Facebook
Yeah.
message those people that left
Correct.
reviews.
Absolutely.
Make sure they're legit. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Be transparent, essentially.
Facebook reviews are one of the best thing on a Facebook business account. First off, if you go to a dog trainer and their reviews are turned off,
Yeah.
be very cautious. Because as you know, you can either leave them up and then you can't touch them, or you can deactivate them altogether. But once a review goes up, it's untouchable.
done, yeah.
And you can message that person directly. So if you go to any dog company and the reviews are turned off, that should be a red flag. Huge.
And then Yelp, Google Places,
Yep.
all these. I mean, there's
And with that
every
being
place
said,
is a review at this point.
to the average client, they have to also be aware. Not everybody's going to be happy with every single
Correct.
dog training.
Yeah.
And you have to
Agreed.
take the crazy 1-star review about this didn't happen and they didn't call. Take it with a grain of salt, and then see how the company responds to that 1-star review.
Take it with a grain of salt in relation to the ratio of other reviews.
Absolutely.
If they have 20 reviews and 18 are bad, then
Absolutely.
there's on to something. But
Correct.
if they have 3 or 4 and 60 or 70 are good.
Correct.
And like we talk about that every business experience, that I say there's just some type of people in the world that you like my brother's that way, where you can give them a briefcase with $1 million and they're gonna say, "Hey, this guy made me carry this briefcase to my car." So
Sure.
I mean, as you know, there's just
Yeah.
that type of people out there. No matter what you do, you can bend over backwards and they're just not gonna be happy. And it's maybe they didn't follow through with the dog and the training. And so yeah, we always say that it's like, look at the totality. Like, for example, I was just looking at an electrician for my house. I was doing a remodel, and I looked at reviews, and the one I picked had like 4.5 out of like 23 reviews on Google. And of course, you read through, there's those 1 and 2 stars, but it's like in general,
Sure.
everyone's pretty happy with this guy, and I used him, and I was happy with him as well. So
And you'll leave him a review on the back end to help him out.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like just take in the law enforcement world, take the totality of the
you go.
circumstances,
Yep.
and make a decision based off that.
And I think it's important to look at too, to be really careful. Like, I have never been caught, and I never will get caught up in like trainer versus trainer,
No, never.
company versus
Yeah.
company.
So stupid.
At the end of the day, if you have a successful dog training business, you should be booked out for the most part.
Yes.
So to make a phone call and get your dog in, short of being like a one-off situation that's between you and the owner type deal, because like as a business you'd be stupid to walk away from it.
Yeah.
Short of that, you shouldn't really be able to call a dog trainer and jump right in. There should almost
we say that
always
every
be-
day,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I oftentimes in YouTube or Facebook videos, I've talked about Off Leash before. Some of these other bigger companies, I say call them and use them, and people will message me, "Why are you talking about other companies?" I say, "Who cares?
Yeah. And
There's so many dogs and so much business. Everybody's booked
The
out.
same
3 or
reason
4
Off
months.
Leash K9 has Aaron with Ridgeside
Yeah.
K9
yeah,
on our show.
exactly. Exactly.
But there is no, and I always tell them, like, I'm a nobody. I'm a tiny little dot on the map. We don't compete with the big companies in any capacity. But those big companies are also booked out.
But the
Yeah.
thing
So
is,
it's like,
the thing is,
you know?
though, Aaron, at one point we weren't a big company. We
Yeah.
were training in a park in fucking Woodbridge, Virginia. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it just grew and grew and grew because of the demand. And that's
Sure.
kind of my point is, I don't personally worry about competitors. Not that I'm so big-headed that I don't think we have competition. It's just there's enough dogs.
Yes,
Yeah.
there's enough business.
There's enough
Correct.
dogs out there. 3 out of 4 households have a dog.
Right.
And so there's plenty of dogs to be trained. So whenever I get, a message, from a competitor, whatever, I typically just blow it off, man. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm just like, go do your own thing, man. Good luck to you.
Well, I mean,
you
it's
know
like
what I mean?
one of my really good friends I talk to literally on a daily basis is Bob Salamini, who we just had out doing a decoy workshop, one of the most decorated French ring decoys in the U.S. He's in Phoenix, which is, a direct competitor with Off Leash. But we always talk about that. It's like that's the biggest thing dog trainers don't understand is there's enough dogs for everyone.
Absolutely.
The dogs, I've never met and this is what I joke with him about, and he always laughs. I say, I've never met a dog trainer in my entire life, and I know pretty much everyone I know is dog trainers at this point, who said, yeah, dude, I booked the last dog in Loudoun County yesterday.
Not gonna happen.
What I mean?
Not gonna happen.
It's like I've never met a dog trainer who's like, I booked the last dog in Phoenix, Arizona yesterday.
Yeah.
So that's it, no more.
You'll never go through them all,
No.
essentially.
Never.
So that's kind of the point of my blog that I wrote to go back to that is there's, just do your research. That's really what it comes down to. As the client, because they're nowhere near, obviously, as knowledgeable as a professional dog trainer, just do your research just like you would anything else. You know what I mean? Don't just pick the
Cheapest.
Yeah.
cheapest or the person that your neighbor Karen recommended. You know
Correct.
what I mean?
Correct.
Do your research, ask them questions, interview them, know?
Absolutely.
Cheapest, what we always encounter is cheapest, and as you said, which I think is a huge point that people get worked up about, is in wait time. People go, and I literally will tell a client that. They'll say, when's your next opening? And I'll say, well, as of right now, our next opening is October 10th for our board and train. And they're like, I can't wait that long. I talked to this company right before I called you, and they said they could get me in on Friday.
Go ahead.
And
We'll see you on the back end.
And literally, sometimes what I'll say, I'm like, if they're so amazing at what they do, don't you think it's odd they have an opening tomorrow?
It's like a tattoo artist.
Yeah, it's like they're so incredible that no one is booking with them,
Yeah.
and that's why they have an opening tomorrow.
We'll see.
So-
We'll see you in 4 months.
yeah, it's like you said. We'll see you on the back end. Go
Yeah.
through them, pay them, and then wait, and then call us back in a couple months. Still wait 3 months, and then pay us too.
Correct.
So
Yeah. And we try to stay very open-minded about it. And I always tell people, like, hey, I think the one big thing you guys bring to the table as a company is that maybe Fredericksburg is booked, but maybe Woodbridge or maybe
correct.
Winchester or maybe these other satellite
shuffle 'em
indoor.
around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where you guys should, and I'm sure are dominating. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And as you should, with the amount of trainers and the amount of overhead, I mean, you guys got to keep dogs coming in. There's
well,
no
I
way around it.
I can tell you this: it's not from lack of effort.
Yeah.
I mean, you were talking about grinding and hustling, a few minutes ago, and I mean, in this business,
You have to.
Yeah. It's 24/7, literally.
You will, if you don't, you will be poor.
Anyone that knows me, like, I mean, Joe's same way, but Tank, anyone that knows me knows from the second my eyes open, literally, I wake up, say, all right, it's bright out.
Exactly.
Grab the phone, and I'm on
fixing
emails, and I'm on text, and I'm, all right, hey, Joe, call this person, boom, boom. And it's literally that way 7 days a week. Doesn't matter if I'm on vacation. Doesn't matter if I'm in Fiji, as Joe will tell you. Doesn't matter if I'm dying because I'm sick. 7 days a week from the time I wake up, and the last thing I do before I shut my eyes.
And you have to.
And then the cycle repeats.
As a dog trainer, you guys are, I know you're married. You're married. Girlfriend. But it can be, like, I know me and my wife.
Yeah, I know where you're going with this.
It can be strainful on a relationship because you're glued to the damn phone. I'm sorry, my microphone. You're like glued to the phone. And me and my wife have a great marriage. We're very trusting of each other. And she's my employee. I'm her employee, however you want to call it. But when you literally walk around on your phone and you're just jumping screen to screen to screen to screen to screen, and who's that? It's a not trust issue, but it's an annoyance issue. I guess is the biggest thing, and it never stops.
It's like it's 1 a.m. Who are you texting?
Yes, 100%. I can't wait. Do you think it's appropriate to text this hour?
Yeah.
And I get it because I wouldn't want her doing the same thing, but I'm like, we just remodeled the kitchen. This next test is paying for your BMW.
Exactly.
We have to keep clients in the business.
Yeah, people just don't know how much, and I think this goes for any business, because any business owner that I know that's successful, people just don't realize how much actual work goes into
crazy.
it. I mean, we've had trainers quit before. They're like, I thought I was just going to get to work with dogs. I didn't know it was this much work, essentially. Like you said, you get the problem dog, and they're like, what do I do? Keep working it. You may have to put in 6 hours every day with just that one dog, and then you still got those 2 other dogs to work. And
absolutely.
Yeah, people just don't. It's a lifestyle, right? You would agree. It's a literal lifestyle.
I'm very lucky. My wife is super supportive, but we just go through those moments. You know what I mean?
Oh, I mean,
and we have a kennel.
Everybody does.
We have a kennel on the property. That's our business. So it's like, it's easy because I can walk out of the house and walk to my kennel in 50 feet.
But it's a blessing and a curse.
Oh, big time. Big time.
Man,
But she runs the house.
I'm right there with you.
You know what I mean? So, like, I have to also acknowledge, and I think you guys could appreciate, just because I'm busy, I'm tired half the time, I'm dehydrated, I'm outside training dogs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. She's inside running the kids, running the food, running the house, and
making up for what we're not doing because
what I'm
we're
not
doing
even
the
involved
business.
in.
Yeah,
I can't even keep track of half the time. You know what I mean? Like, why don't I have any clean socks? Like, it's crazy. But coming back full circle, you had touched on some working dogs a minute ago on failure rates on the street. I just saw a video posted last night. I don't know if you guys saw it. It's been all over some of the working dog things. The dog that broke the down and bit that kid.
The kid, I saw
on
that.
the pursuit bailout.
Correct.
That there was quite a few police officers that jumped on the blog that I saw, basically trying to explain that away. And as somebody that's been, and again, I can't speak on what agency I work for, or any of that stuff, but as somebody that's been in that exact situation with that exact damn play-by-play, it was a mistake on the handler from start to finish. It was way too much stress on the handler to deal with. The dog coming out with just a pinch collar on, no flat collar, no harness. I mean, the dog wasn't even prepared for the shift or for the task that it was going into. Yeah. To send that dog, he did a great job stopping the dog. I give him credit. Dog stopped on a verbal. I think he actually told him to down. The dog started to bark, but that's okay. That part was good. But then not recognizing, like, this dog's in a high state of drive. The dog's jacked. You're going to rely on that dog to make the correct determination based on the task, based on what his instinct is telling him to do. So think back to the wolf situation. Yeah. Like, would you trust that wolf in that situation to do the same? Of course not.
No.
But now we trust a dog to make the right decision. And what ultimately happened, it was a hard video to watch. You know, if you're a human being and just if that was your kid, the police side of me says, well, the kid shouldn't have ran. Okay?
Yeah.
The citizen side said he came back and he was sitting there with his hands up. The situation shouldn't have happened. It was completely avoidable. Some say it's a training issue. It could be a dog issue, could be an agency issue, could be all these different things. But those situations are what gives police officers in the canine world a really bad rap and a really bad, like almost like amateur hour, an amateur hour view on things. This will come full circle with the pet stuff here in a second. When I used to prescribe that world was the only world, and that was the only place where knowledge was. I would look at the pet market as this was a total joke, right? Then when I came into the pet market and I started meeting some really high-end trainers, guys that were skilled at a high level but have never touched a police dog a day in their life. But these are like top-notch trainers. I'm thinking, damn, where's the mix of this? Because this guy has way more skill set. Now, maybe he's not a gun guy. Maybe he's really bad under stress. But damn if he can train some dogs.
And apply it.
Correct. These high-end trainers look down on a lot of the police trainers the same way police trainers look down on a lot of these high-end civilian trainers.
Yeah.
And I flirt with both sides of the market often. And I hear a lot of the civilians that say, you know, police dogs have no out, no obedience, no yada, yada, yada. And I try to tell people very quickly, remember, the aggression game to a patrol dog is only one facet, right? We need patrol dogs that can track with enthusiasm, that can find articles with passion, that can do obedience with brilliance, that can do bite work at a 1% level in any and all circumstance with new pictures thrown at them. So some of the arguments that I get into, and I try to avoid them online at all costs, I try to steer clear of them, but some of the arguments that I get into face-to-face with guys that are high up in ring sport or high up, and I love French ring. I think French ring is one of the premier ring sports out there, hands down. But it is a known task. It is an exposed picture the dog repeats over and over and over to build confidence in that situation. Now, people will say, well, the decoy is different every time. They move different. Well, of course. But let's put that decoy in an unknown warehouse in the back corner, turn all the lights off, add a bunch of noises, and then expect the dog to perform the same as he would on the soccer field. They performed that 500 reps prior. Yeah. We know the result of that, okay? Police dogs need to be able to go into any and all environments, perform with brilliance every single time without a pre-picture, without a first exposure. And I think that's where a lot of sport world fail to understand. It's not just about the aggression. We need a dog that can do tracking, that can do article search, area search, learn a single odor as far as whether it be narcotic, indoor, explosive, and have just as much passion to find that as they do to go out here and play with a decoy on a field. Finding a dog to do bite work is simple. Yeah. Especially if you know, I mean, you can see it in an 8-week-old puppy for the most part. And if it's exposed correctly, this will transfer to a dog down the road. But taking that same PSA 3 or French Ring 3 and say, hey, now we need him to go do a high-level track across concrete, through the projects, through the woods, and find this person without biting somebody by accident, with staying on the source odor. You'll see guys like, I don't know if I want to try that. And then really quick, we're going to throw a set of keys or a bullet out into this wide-open field. Cut your dog off leash and tell him to go find the article. Yeah. He's not real motivated for that. Okay, no problem, but we need to do an obedience routine now amongst other dogs and a lot of high-end call-offs and drops and all this stuff. We don't do that. And really quick, unclip them off the leash. Now we're going to do an area search and send him into the woods, and you need to just listen and be able to cast and direct from a distance so he can find the suspect out here. Let's go back to the soccer field. Exactly. And I'm not taking anything away from sport dogs. 80% of sport dogs could be police
transition,
dogs.
correct.
And 80% of police dogs could be sport dogs. A lot of it's on the exposure in the beginning. Yeah. But for a true 1% police dog, you really don't want a dog that's over-the-top aggressive. Because if that dog is in the mall, is doing a demo or doing something and tags somebody by accident, this is a problem. Yeah. And I mean, it's a real deal like Game Stopper. Yeah. You may be at a Canine, dog may be put down, department's writing a check. These things have to be avoided at all costs. Whereas, well, you would get sued, you guys would get sued. But if it's just like, you know, weekend warrior PSA guy and his dog bites somebody, he may get sued, but I mean, what's he going to have to give? And it's really just going to be an animal control report and maybe worst case scenario like a misdemeanor crime for something.
Some community service, yeah.
Worst possible case, but most likely he's going to get 3 bites at the apple, right? Like aggressive dog, dangerous dog, and then put down or whatever. Most counties go through that cycle. So that's kind of one of my pet peeves with the real dog versus sport dog, indoor. What's better? At the end of the day, they all come from the same damn litters. Yeah. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. And the more expensive the dog, especially in Europe, is going to be pushed towards sport. That's a fact. The washout from sports often come over to be police dogs. That's a fact. Yep. You know, so the whole this dog's better than that dog, it's on the exposure, but a lot of these guys forget when they see these videos of a police dog failing. First off, that's hopefully more of a one-off incident. You know what I mean? Sure. They shouldn't be failing. There's a ton of videos out here recently of dogs failing to engage. These dogs should be pulled off the street instantaneously, retrained, washed out, or recycled, indoor, given to a new handler that can motivate the dog. There's a lot of different issues there, but that doesn't represent the police world as a whole. There's a lot of police trainers out there that are top-notch, cycled through thousands of police dogs, but nobody ever knows who they are because they don't have Facebook, they don't have Instagram, and they refuse to do any of that. On the flip side of that, there's a ton of police trainers that shouldn't even handle a dog, shouldn't even own a pet, and somehow they're a police trainer. And that's what gives the bad vibe to everybody, you know?
So I have a question.
Sure.
Just due to my ignorance, and I'm hoping you could answer it. So those dogs, those dual-purpose dogs that aren't, you know, that we see all the time that aren't engaging, because you often see how, you know, a lot of times they're just put back on the streets, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, they may
It could cost somebody their life.
do an extra. Exactly.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the department at that point just make them a single purpose? I don't know.
So that's a very good question, and it's a complicated answer based on department, state, and what court system you're under as far as like the 4th district, etc. So let's look at this for just a second. I'm not going to say the names of the kennels, but a lot of those dogs you see failing to engage most likely came from a mega kennel. Whether it's up north, whether it's in the Carolinas, wherever, there's kennels. Again, I'm not mentioning them, but that sit on a tremendous amount of dogs at a time, right? Small department goes up. They really don't know what they're looking for, but they want a police dog. So they send a handler who has no experience, accompanied by some supervisor who has no experience. They go to a kennel, relying on the kennel to give them a tier 1 dog. Correct. Yeah. And the kennel provides them just the dog they need. We got just a dog for you, buddy. Now, the kennel has to also keep in mind they can't give this person a man-eater because they probably won't make it to the first rest stop.
Yeah.
You see? But at the same time, you have these kennels that are pushing out dogs that shouldn't even be a tracking dog or something, let alone a dual-purpose police dog.
Right.
And it's an epidemic right now. Now, these same kennels oftentimes will offer, you can buy the dog through us and stay here for our certification class. It's 4 weeks, it's 6 weeks. We do a 24-week basic school, combined like by a multi-month, there's no real set limit FTO, where another canine officer is with you and or you're with a canine officer as your dog comes up. You're talking 6 to 7 months of training just to get that person on the street alone with a dog. How can you possibly take a dog in 4 weeks, green dog, marry it to a handler, get it certified, get it trained up in tracking, obedience, narcotics, aggression control, and then cut it loose? This is dangerous stuff, okay? Furthermore, we're putting dogs on the street younger and younger and younger. If you go over to Europe, they're not putting 12-month-old dogs on the street. Right. You try to buy a PH1 at 12 months. Yeah. It's impossible, okay? Yeah. They're going to say, well, the baby is 24 months, but this really cool one is 36 months. One of the dogs that I'm very, very close with overseas in Holland right now that's fathered a lot of our puppies that we brought over just turned 4.5 and just went to police work. So for the first 4.5 years, training, PH1, I mean, he has his PH1 stamp, but he was above that as far as skill set. Sure. Now he's going to police work. But think about the difference between a 12-month-old puppy, which is what they are, versus a 4.5-year-old dog. Now, granted, that 4.5-year-old dog, it's a money issue, right? Yeah, he's only going to get 3 to 4 years max of patrol time. Here in the States, especially when you're doing a small department, it's all about return on investment. So they want dogs as young as possible that can work as old as possible. Now, your question was, why are they putting them back on the street? It's a money issue, right? Yeah. So a department... Well,
and not so much that. I guess more so is why are they putting them back on the street as a dual purpose and not just a single purpose doing...
It's a liability. So once a dog's been taught to engage and taught to bite, if an accident were to happen...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Who's liable for that?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. You know? Have you ever met Paul Ludwig?
I do not know him personally, but we have flirted with the exact same people. So he retired from Metro Transit, which is the bus police department here in D.C. metro area. Yeah. So our trainers and their trainers, again, I got to be real careful what I say.
Sure.
Everything has overlapped tremendously. Paul retired 10 years ago. When did Paul retire? I'm trying to think. Maybe 10-ish years ago from Metro Transit.
Right.
So at different conferences, at different D.C. calls.
You guys would get along really well.
Yeah, so I should meet him. I know he knows one of our master trainers very, very well.
Yeah.
He was just kind of out as I was coming into the D.C. Metro K9 area. Because once you're in that area, whether you're with my jurisdiction or the surrounding,
everybody knows everyone.
Correct.
Sure.
Correct.
No, that's solid info.
We actually have, I know I extended an invite to you, but September 1st, we actually have Paul Ludwig and Sam
right?
Edmonds doing...
That's his decoy?
Yeah, doing a private seminar.
It's difficult because like I'm married to the kennel. Between the kennel and work, I'm like married to the property. But I'll definitely try to come out there.
Yeah, actually,
and I appreciate those invites on the last one and this one.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I just posted. If you guys watching get a chance, I just posted the link to the Canine Guardians movie, or the documentary, and it's
badass.
Yeah, it's Paul Ludwig and Sam Edmonds, and it's all about kind of canine dogs failing and the things they're trying to do to help fix that issue, kind of much like what Aaron just talked about. So if you guys get a chance, definitely click this link below, and it's about an hour and 30 minutes, but I think it'll really make everyone kind of appreciate the police dogs, the trainers, the handlers, and just gives everyone appreciation for all of this. So definitely check that out.
A lot of it too is on the expertise of the selection. So if you take a small department or even a medium or large department, but that trainer and or the handler don't really know what they're looking for, they go to a kennel and they're almost assigned a dog. This is crazy. Like I know that when we've selected dogs, we've went through 30 dogs and 3 kennels to walk away with 1.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So my heart goes out to, you meet these guys and it's just like you hear their story and you never want to, oh man, you got a shit dog.
Yeah.
But you just say like, man, we'll really try to work and build this dog up. But on the street it's gonna fail. You know what I mean? It's not gonna succeed. And again, you could take, and I know everybody says like, I got a badass dog. My dog is a crocodile. He's savage. He's this. He's that. It's very easy to make a dog look very good in a wide open environment with a bite suit present, with all these things, right? But
there's a ladder stick going.
There's a million ways, right? These are learned pictures. The dogs know task through association of behavior. So as soon as you do something, I know what I'm supposed to do right now. I'm supposed to throw a big wrench in the middle of that. You know what I mean? And you'd be surprised the high level dogs that will fail.
Yeah.
You know. Very good guy, Eric Stambo. He owns Venice K9. So we talk often. He runs the Working Dog podcast.
Yep. Actually, I'm wearing their shirt right now. Working Dog Radio.
Hey, Eric Stambo, big shout out there.
Great show. Him and Ted.
Yeah. So me and Eric trained last month together for a little bit, and have been talking and texting almost every day. And I'm going to give him a shout out right now.
Of course.
A little early for a plug, but I'll give him a little plug. He's into pet dogs now. So starting this month, which has increased our back and forth communication to a couple times a day, it seems like, as far as like, oh my God, I got this pit bull and I got this, yeah. He's another one of those guys that has kind of been there, done that, seen it a million times over, with some very crazy situations that he's been through. Personally, he's a hero to law enforcement in a lot of different ways. And I think he would agree with most of what I'm saying. And the reason that we trained together was due to a different place that was having some issues with some of their dogs that were failing to engage in serious situations, a lot of problem solving. But when you go into that environment and you see that the training there is like 30 years old, you know, and they have some, you know, a master trainer that's like, well, this is how we do it. Well, why? Well, that's how it was done. Well, why? And at the end of the day, it's like nobody really wants to jump in the weeds and identify a deficiency and say, you know what? Our program sucks.
Yeah.
Our rules of engagement suck. How we train sucks, and we need to revamp this from the ground up. But all that's transferable to the pet world too. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? How many times do you see a trainer that possibly could have been or could have a really good program, but they're still stuck in one-trick pony?
Yeah.
And one-trick ponies don't work for dogs.
Or they just don't work. I mean, they say that's kind of my thing. A lot of people, you know, in this industry, as all three of you are very well familiar with, you have to work. Like, it's not if you want to check in at 9 a.m., check out at 5 p.m.
Yeah, you're not in the right.
You're not going to be a good
you
dog.
You want weekends off.
You're not going to be a good dog trainer, number one, and you're not going to be a profitable business,
if
number
you want
two.
sick days and vacation.
Never happen.
Yeah.
I mean, and it sucks in a sense, but if it's your passion, then you almost live for it, I guess, you know, the grind.
I actually just did, as you know, I just did an interview for a new trainer here in Northern Virginia. And what's funny is, like, Christine, all of our trainers can tell you when I do interviews, like, they always laugh because, you know, most people, like, tells you all the great things, like, oh, you get this and you make this much and you get freedom and da-da-da. My interview is literally telling them all of the bad things. Like, the trainer I just interviewed, I'm like, if you get sick, guess what? Dog still needs to be worked. Yeah. If you're throwing up, you know, feel miserable, headache, guess what? you still got to go out and work the dog 6-7 hours that day, like literally. And that's all. Like I just sell. Well, I guess it's not selling, but I'm selling them on all of the downside. I'm
You
like
wanna go on vacation, get some crates. You're taking the dogs with you.
exactly. I'm like the plus sides are easy for you to see. So I'm just gonna spend the next hour telling you all the bad things. When you wake up at 6 a.m., you're gonna have a dog with explosive diarrhea in the crate, and now you got to spend the next hour and a half literally in that crate, cleaning it and rinsing it and disinfecting it. I'm like, so want the job?
Well, and
That's a great way to do it.
I really do.
And we always say, you know, it really is a lifestyle. Like we're not just saying that. Like it consumes your life. If you don't like dogs, you're not going to last. I mean,
Correct.
you know, yes, it can be a very profitable business, but it won't last long if the passion's not
No,
there. It's
yeah.
going to be a real
I don't know
quick
anyone
in and out.
successful, like truly successful in dog training that doesn't have a legitimate passion for doing it.
We're lucky. We know a lot of really, really good trainers. We've been meeting them on the show. You yourself, you know, we've met Paul Ludwig, Sam Edmonds, Jerry Bradshaw. You know, there's a lot of guys that you can pretty much see the passion in them. And it's good to be around those kind of people. You know what I mean?
Motivation builds motivation.
Yeah, man. And you know, it's you nailed it. Motivation builds motivation. That's, you know, for me, it's just because you always feel like, man, am I the only fucking one that is working, you know, 16, 18-hour days?
Yep.
And then you meet these people and you're like, oh, shit, this is the norm if you want to be successful. You know what I mean?
And I think that's in any field.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As I say, like Bill Gates would have never became Bill Gates if he hated computers, but thought, maybe I can make some money in this.
Sure.
And I feel like that's a lot of industries is people go into industries because they think it can be profitable, but it won't be if that's not your true passion. Like, you know, like Warren Buffett, I guarantee he, like 50 years ago, he wasn't like, you know what, I fucking hate stocks and looking
Totally,
at numbers and all this, but I can probably make money do it. Like, it's all guys that live for it.
You know what I love
live
about
for
Warren
doing
Buffett
that.
more than anything? There was
His
a video,
modest home and
and it was on a Vice channel. It was one of the little podcasts I listen to sometimes while it's funny, but I'll listen to podcasts while I'm training dogs.
Yeah.
And I don't talk,
I do too.
I don't
Yeah.
talk all that often when I'm training dogs.
Same.
He was being interviewed, and he was driving the interviewer around in like a 1995 Cadillac.
McDonald's.
Goes to the same McDonald's every day.
I love it. I'm like, yes, this is my hero. Like, he could buy a dealership full of Cadillacs.
Oh.
And he's driving a...
He could buy a Cadillac.
Correct.
Literally.
Yeah, he's driving a Beetle. Like, that's awesome. You know what I mean?
That's, again, you know, I posted that on Facebook the other day. That's one thing I've noticed about, you know, obviously I know more dog training company owners than any other business owners, but that's one thing I've noticed with the successful people I know, man, is they're constantly feeding themselves with motivational shit, you know, podcasts, books, audio books. We were talking about that this morning.
I literally text Joe this morning. I'm like, hey, literally this morning, and I said, hey, you need to, I was going to pull it up. Literally my last text to you at 9:15 this morning on my way here. I said, hey, you really need to download this audiobook and send him a screenshot.
Audible 24/7.
Yeah, like you have to, and that I feel like that's a cool commonality between successful
it shows
people.
passion. You want to improve yourself. You want to improve the business. You want to improve dogs. You want to improve interpersonal communications.
But it also shows that you're willing to learn from other people as well.
Self-improvement.
You know what I mean? And you have to be in order to be successful in my mind.
And I think I like to think that's where I'm different than a lot of dog training business. Clearly you are, because you're here with us, and Joe knows, like, I don't have the ego. I'm actually the opposite. I'm like, ooh, I want to go learn from Jeff Shetler at Georgia Canine and Tracking. Oh, I want to go learn how, now that I learned that, I want to see how Von Lick Kennels does their tracking and detection program. Oh, now that I learned that, I want to see how Bob Salamini implements protection work in ring sports and vice versa. Ooh, I want to see how Paul and Sam. So I do the opposite. Like most people, as you know, is like, screw
Stick to
everyone
themselves.
else. Like, I'm like, oh, I want to bring in these guys and learn from them because they have way more knowledge in these fields than I do. And I feel like if everyone, and I've said this before in podcasts, but I feel like if every trainer took that same approach, the world of dog training would be better. The dogs themselves would be better, and it would just create a better environment for everyone. Where versus the kind of the old school people is like, everyone else is a dumbass. I've been doing this for 30 years and da da da. Where I look at the opposite. Here's the way I've done it. But how does Aaron do this? How does Paul do this? How does Bob do this? How does Joe do this? How does Jeff Shetler do this? And like,
you bring up a good point, and I do this all the time. Everybody's trained hunters and dogs, right? That's
sure.
There's no honor. There's no big deal. But my thing is, you will always have the dog that makes you scratch your head, that makes you pick up the phone and call somebody else and say, hey, man, I'm struggling and I can't grasp how to communicate with this dog. I've done it to countless other dog trainers. I've had my phone ring countless times.
Yep.
And if you're too big to make that phone call and say, I'm a little over my head, or I haven't trained a really small dog in a long, long time, and I'm having a hard time marking corrections effectively versus delivering reward timing-wise on this little tiny dog, but I saw you just did a dog and it was really cool. How did you mark that? You know what I mean? At the same time, I have people that call all the time, like, I have a really aggressive dog who's in a kennel. I can't even open the door.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about some slips and some pulleys and some safety equipment here that you can do to protect yourself, because protection is a very big deal.
Of course.
Everybody talks about the honor of getting bit. Getting bit sucks.
No, yeah.
And oftentimes I tell people, like, it's not you see on Facebook a lot pictures of like these dog bites and it's like all these thumbs up. It's like, that's cool. But after you've had that a couple times, and you may have a little bit of nerve damage, or you may have a little bit of skin issue.
It's not cool.
And then that costs you money to fix, and it costs you downtime.
Yeah.
Well, not just that, but when I see trainers constantly getting bit, I'm thinking
That's
in my
ego.
mind, because I remember when I first started, I got bit way more than I do now. Like, I can't even really remember the last time I got
Your ability to read the dog increases.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So as you get better with training, the less you get bit. So when I see, trainers posting, once a week that they got tagged, I'm like,
what are you doing wrong?
I'm like, what are you fucking doing? Like,
Right. But they'll tell you, well, I train the real dogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of
Sure,
course.
sure you do. But that's a big thing is, if you can't read a safety issue,
Yeah.
right, then you got to be really careful training, because you do see, and I do see it often. I've had dogs that come in, I'm sure you guys had, where they went to a trainer prior. The trainer got bit within the first little bit. They canceled the dog immediately. Then the dog shows up, right? Now the dog's already learned they can shut off pressure through
shut
biting.
off pressure, yep.
They can shut off correction through aggression.
Yep.
And this is already 2 steps to the rear, right?
Sure.
And now you might say, listen, we can do this in 2 weeks, but let's talk about real world outcomes here.
Yeah.
Are you going to have a competition obedience dog? Ain't happening. Not in 2 weeks. Let's get this dog off leash. Let's get it under control.
Absolutely.
Let's establish safety protocol, recall, things like this that are safety issues, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
What the word no means. This
Yep.
is the most misunderstood word in dog training. Nobody, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Nobody teaches the basic foundations of, does your dog know what the word no means?
Yeah.
Well, he knows how to sit. Who cares?
Should technically know before he knows his name, I feel
Right.
like.
Well, it's just like a toddler.
Yeah.
Imagine a 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or any age that doesn't understand what no means.
But that's a lot of dogs.
Yeah.
Or
Oh, yeah,
whatever
of course,
word
yeah.
you use off or whatever, you
Sure.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's your thing. The dog has never heard no, right?
Yeah.
How often do you say that? The
Yeah.
dog's just
No,
never
it's
heard
true.
Yeah.
This
This
is a
dog's never been
reality,
told
though.
no.
Yeah.
It's like a kid that's never been told no.
Like,
You're like, this is an asshole kid.
It's happened.
You know?
Sean was touching on this. It's happened so many times where somebody comes in, and of course the client thinks their dog is the worst in the world. You know what I mean? And then the client leaves, and I'm talking to the trainer. I'm like, this actually isn't going to be that difficult. The
Correct.
dog's just literally never been told no before in its entire life. No fault of the owner. She or
That's
he.
why they're here.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they signed up. So once you instill some
Rules, boundaries, limitations, whatever.
rules, boundaries, limitations, all of a sudden it clicks because that's what the dogs need. They need guidance. That's why,
Goes back to your wolf story.
exactly. That's going back to their primal instincts. They need guidance, So that's kind of my theory on
And the
it.
problem is, too, I think this is a good little heat topic to add to this flame. But I'd love for Aaron to get in on this, too. The problem with that is I feel like in the culture and society and time we're in right now, people are being convinced that everything should be positive and everything should be a positive experience and positive reinforcement and treat training only. And
Very dangerous.
And what I've said this in one of our blogs. I really talked about this deep in one of our podcasts before, so I'm just going to touch on it really quickly. But, my argument when I talk to those people, I'm like, there's no environment in the entire world, there's no natural habitat in the entire world outside of us when we try to make it happen where positive reinforcement only exists.
Correct.
I'm like, give me one animal in the entire world in a natural habitat where positive reinforcement only is how they're upbringing. I'm like, that to me, that alone tells you that if positive reinforcement only worked, how come it doesn't naturally occur anywhere in nature? Nowhere. You can't explain one place in nature where positive reinforcement only occurs. There's consequences. Why doesn't the deer come out into your open field, the 12-pointer, at noon November 1st? Because he's learned through upbringing there's consequences to that. Why doesn't the guy? I went to South Africa on a safari about 6 months ago, maybe a year ago now.
Hold on, where'd you go?
The name of the safari, well, I'd have to look it up.
I lived there for 3 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I was in Cape Town for 3 days, and then the safari.
Up north, I'm sure.
Zulu Nyala.
Nice.
Zulu Nyala is next to Penda, if you're familiar with that.
Is that way up north by Kruger Park area, or?
No, I'm not sure where it is geographically.
That's cool. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Cool.
no worries.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. I loved it. I mean, but
You came back alive. So
yeah, it was odd that. Well, it wasn't odd. I'm being sarcastic, but it was odd that you never saw the antelope next to the watering hole drinking next to the cheetah or the lion. Why? Because they've learned that there's corrections from the time that they've seen other animals probably do it, and they get destroyed. And what people forget is that balanced training, why it's that way in nature, and positive reinforcement only doesn't naturally occur anywhere in the world in nature, is because it's a safety mechanism. The dog learns there's consequences, so now the dog does not run out the front door and get hit by the car coming. The dog learns there's consequences, so the dog doesn't bite the 5-year-old and now gets put down and is dead. And that's the stuff that drives me crazy, is like organizations like terrorist organizations like PETA and stuff like that. Yeah. They would literally...
Did he just call him a terrorist organization?
They would literally... rather see a dog put down,
get the needle,
put down, than get corrected by an e-collar or a prong collar.
Yeah.
And to me, that mentality of everything should be positive is just mind-blowing to me. Aaron, your thoughts?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I would say operant conditioning is the way that we learn through everything, right? So when you leave here and get in that $100,000 Jeep outside
and drive to your $800,000 mansion,
the second that happens, your Jeep, you turn ignition on, it starts beeping at you, right? The only way to make that annoying beep turn off is to buckle your seatbelt. That is operant conditioning 101, okay?
And just like dogs, it's designed to protect you.
Exactly. So. And you know, we use an example a lot of times before we do, and we make all of our clients put an e-collar on. You know, we go through a lot of the cycles there. And I tell everybody, hey, that light switch is switched off. Here's a metal fork. Stick it in the light switch. And they say, no. I say, no, really, it's just trust me, it's turned off. And they say, no. I say, well, why won't you do it? Because what if you're wrong? Exactly, right? So that's the operant side of that theory is really a law, because it's telling you if there's 1% chance of getting corrected here, you're not going to do it because it's a very real correction.
Protecting you from yourself.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you cannot, I mean, it is dangerous. It's so just ludicrous. And the easiest way for a trainer that believes in all positive is to say, of course, anybody can shape a dog in a controlled environment with little stimulus and have a dog do all kinds of stuff.
Follow and mark.
That's valuable. Yeah. I mean, you can train a dog to do that. It's important to get a foundation on that. There's no better way, in my opinion, if time allows, to do free shaping and clicker training to reinforce a behavior.
Correct.
Of course, but time doesn't always allow for this to happen, right? Take a free shaped dog to a circus, take him off leash and free shape with him. Versus take an e-collar conditioned dog to a circus and do an obedience routine with him. We know what will happen. Yeah. One will fail, one will succeed.
Correct.
So you can't ever argue with actual success and real world application. I know as an agency, not as a business, but as an agency, we switched over to all e-collar about 10 years ago. We're an off-leash agency.
Yeah.
It's almost unheard of.
A lot of them are right here.
Nowadays,
in this area.
Yeah.
Outside of this area, it's very, very rare. Very, very rare. Very. People don't want to put the time in. Or they're that e-collar stuff's for pet dogs. You know, we pick our dog up and show them who's in charge here. Like, okay, great. But you're still using a low drive German
Take your
Shepherd.
marker treat dog and show me a 25-minute off-leash heel in Times Square, New York.
Correct.
That's what I want to see.
Correct.
So if it doesn't have practicality for real world, then
Correct. And we're big on both. And I don't know exactly. I've actually, for as much as I talk with Tank, we've never actually talked about methodologies. But we're a Nipopo style company. Yeah. That's our methodology. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you guys are your own version of that same system. There's not too many ways to skin a cat when it comes to either
balance training.
Correct. Yeah. You know, whether it's you guys or somebody else or a different agency, everybody's using what they can do best. And that's what I tell everybody. We are not a silver or gold Nipopo facility. I refuse to ever pay for that title. but we believe in classical and operant conditioning paired together to get the best result.
Correct. Yep.
You can't have one without the other.
Correct.
It just doesn't work in the real world.
Yeah.
So when we start throwing in stimuluses like we do at our place a lot with gun dogs and all this different stuff going off, a lot of which we can't really put on Facebook, but this little piece of baloney is not going to entice this dog
they don't give a shit.
not to go out here and do what we don't want them to do, versus the threat of you can do it, but you will not enjoy it.
Right.
It will be a learning experience. But if you wait, you'll get to
You'll
do what
still
you want
get
to
the
do,
reward.
and you'll still get the baloney.
Yeah.
Correct.
So you decide. Get jackpotted and get all the stuff you want, and or earn a correction, and we're still going to do the task.
Yep.
Yep.
Some dogs learn very quickly. Some dogs do not.
Yeah.
But this is why we're in
I say it's just like kids. You know, anyone that has a toddler knows
Yeah.
the importance of balanced
Has to
training.
be there.
So you can't just pause. I can almost guarantee there would be no successful parent in the world that grew up or that raised their child solely on positive reinforcement. Hey, you go to sleep, I'll get you ice cream tomorrow. You tell me to fuck off, you just don't get ice cream tomorrow. Like,
well, there would be a severe consequence.
Yeah.
My wife hears that, it's going to be on.
well, that's what I mean. Like there has to be balance, whether it's
Yeah.
kids, whether it's dogs, there just has to be balance anywhere in nature.
I can tell you, as a business, we get inquiries all the time, probably daily, on, hey, we want training, but we hate the e-collars. We're not going to use an e-collar. I just say politely, like, well, this is how we train.
Yeah, same.
Go train elsewhere, because we're not even going to waste the time to have a meeting to discuss this if right off the bat you're saying no e-collar period.
Correct.
Yeah.
Go somewhere else.
And we got to wrap up here in a little bit, but just to add on that really quick, and what we kind of not like laugh about, but just blows our minds, is we'll literally get clients. It's like, oh, my dog's attacked 2 people. He bit my neighbor. And I'm like, yeah, I would sign up for our, aggression program. We help desensitize them and give you control, and you can help negate some of those issues, And they're like, oh, well, we don't want to do e-collar. We don't believe in correction.
It's like your dog's going to die, literally.
I'm like, that's why your dog's an asshole.
Yeah.
That's why your dog's bit people. That's why your dog killed that poodle 3 weeks ago, is because you're enabling that. It's like, oh, my kid is a bully at school and beats up kids and takes their lunch money. Well, I don't want to correct him, though.
It's crazy, too, that people equate. They'll put a pinch or a prong or whatever, which I use all of them.
Yep.
I have no problem with collars. They're fine using the laws of physics to say your body weight times a dog body weight centered on a string to a piece of metal, and we're going to now
on their throat,
jerk the dog across the floor. This is okay.
Yeah.
But delivering controlled stim
Insane.
at low levels,
Insane.
is not okay.
Yeah.
It just boggles my mind every single time.
I agree. Well, look, Aaron, you are one knowledgeable.
We're gonna have to have
dude.
Aaron back.
I was gonna say that we got to do a part 2. We're out of time, unfortunately.
Blows my mind. Thank you.
But I definitely want you on for part 2. I feel like the 3 of us could sit at this table
forever
for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, if I could make a really quick plug,
absolutely.
I'm also a co-owner with ActivePower.com, ActivePowerIncorporated.com, which is coming up right now. We have a lot of products that are going to hit the market later. It started as a pharmaceutical company with just person side, and there's also an animal division now. Primarily, it's going to be a lot of it's focused on horses, which is where we need to stay. The other half is going to be on dogs. The dog influence is coming from some of the top world level IPO and ring sport competitors in the world that have gave a lot of input. It's going to be health and wellness stuff. So there's going to be a lot of different oils, kind of like what you would use like Bengay on your skin, but there's going to be oils for dogs.
You guys have a
on
website?
That. The website is up right now, but it's an old website where we used to have an LLC. There's a new website coming. It'll be launching real soon. The Facebook site is up. The new website is under development. These websites take a long time to build when they're being built by these companies. It should be released in just a little bit, but that's ActivePowerIncorporated.com. Not a training business in any capacity, but it is going to have a lot of wellness stuff. The doctor that owns it, Dr. Robbie Iyer, he's my mentor in dog training. I call him Little Buddha. He's a little Indian guy, genius, absolute genius level guy. He owns a couple of doctor's offices in Loudoun County and Fairfax County. Dog training is his outlet. Doesn't drink, doesn't smoke, doesn't play golf. He trains
awesome.
dogs. He has an amazing IPO3 dog. He's had a couple different dogs come up. He trains under Wallace Payne.
Oh, okay.
Very serious club down there in Metro Atlanta. What do they call it? I think he's going to get mad, but it's in Atlanta. It's Metro Atlanta Schützen Club, whatever. But underneath a Wallace Payne, so they are a very hardcore training group.
Good stuff.
Not appropriate for civilians for the most part to be around that kind of training, but very real dogs, very real training, and it's going to be an awesome thing down the road. If you believe in the wellness of dogs, if you believe in the benefits of some oils and some supplements to
Yeah.
really take your dog to the next level. Not talking about, making a pet a little bit better, but taking a high-level dog to the next level.
Yeah.
It's going to be some really cool stuff coming.
Very cool, and we'll get links from Aaron. We'll
Yeah.
post that on the Dog Show Facebook page and
Awesome.
push that out for you. How can people find you?
Just Google Ridgeside will pop up. Facebook is the best way.
Yep,
We
he's
have
on-
a website. We really don't use the website at all at
Okay.
this point. I think we have 500 emails we haven't opened off the website. We may shut it down at some point, to be honest with you.
Yep.
But,
Aaron's on Facebook.
is the way
Yep.
to do it.
Yep. Ridgeside K9's on Facebook, and you're on Instagram, I believe, as well. You don't use that as much.
Not that
The
much.
gram, as Nick calls it.
But we are on it, yeah.
Awesome content, man. Very,
Yeah.
very.
And what do you guys have coming next? What's big for Off Leash?
I got the tiger thing going next week. I have a private seminar for a family in New Zealand at the end of August. Then I have a
That
private
sounds
seminar.
like a hard trip.
Yeah, someone's got to do it. Then I have a private seminar for a family in Singapore at the
Awesome
end of
place.
September. And that's kind of
Don't
it.
spit on the sidewalk.
Yeah, I know. I was there last year doing a seminar too. They're pretty they don't even sell gum in the country, so it's pretty crazy. And I actually have a couple dog products that I'm gonna be bringing to market in the next couple months.
Crush
so
it. Crush it.
keep
Crush
an
it.
eye out on that. Some detection stuff, so you'll be
Perfect.
interested. So and
We'll push it hardcore.
that's it for me.
Well, I got to pee, so that's no.
And Sean, I appreciate you reaching out too, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling.
That was
man.
awesome
Yeah.
Yeah,
time.
learned a lot today, for sure.
Yeah, just business grind and dog training grind. You
The
know,
huge.
you know the drill, man. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you to the show producer Sean. He's the one who hooks up these interviews, and he definitely.
Does Sean have his Bite Ranch Canine T-shirt on?
He does. Shout out to Nick
Nice.
Morrow with
Nick
Bite Ranch
Morrow,
in
yeah.
Alabama. So definitely, we look forward to having you back, man.
that's awesome.
It's been a pleasure having you on, and we will see you guys next week. Maybe.
Yeah, the dog show. You ready?
It's a good time, guys.
The dog show with Nick and Joe. It's a beast. It's going down. It's off the chain. It's off the leash. I'm tuning in Friday every week. The dog show podcast. Yes, indeed. Hold up. Check out the podcast. Listen to it online. Giving you advice to help train your K9. Take your dog to the next level from the experts of obedience. The dog show, dog show. Guaranteed you're needing this. Ayy, off the leash. K9 Training, Facebook and IG. And the site is so amazing. Yeah, the dog show with Nick and Joe. Hold up. The dog show with Nick and Joe. Ayy.